Let's have a quick look at the home screen and the options for editing home screen in the HTC ChaCha phone and the Nokia E6 phone. So there's nothing particularly surprising or innovative with any of these home screens. Both of them have a bunch of icons that you can press, and then you'll go to an application. Both phones also have a number of home screens, different home screens that you can scroll between with different functionality. As you can see, the HTC has the same background no matter where I go. And when I enter the last screen, as you can see on the little scroll bar down here, I will stop. The Nokia phone has different backgrounds for every screen, and I think it's fairly clever to have these different backgrounds, both because it provides some kind of variation, but also because, you know, it's easier to remember that YouTube is on the green screen instead of on the fourth screen or something. It's different from user to user, of course, but I just think it's a nice little touch instead of having just one background for everything. Also, the HTC phone will stop when I go to the end here, whereas the Nokia phone will continue. You can see the little dot down here, which tells me that I'm on the second, the third, fourth, and the first screen again. So it's clever that you can do this kind of wraparound instead of having to go all the way back as you do over here. It's not a huge thing or a huge task to go back over these 4 screens over here, but it's just a little bit more clever that you can just go one screen the other way at the Nokia phone. Also, a clever thing at the Nokia phone is that you can use your navigation key down here as you would do in the old phone or in the phone that didn't have a touch screen. So it's consistent with the old interfaces, and also it's fairly easy to just select messaging like this, even though it's also easy to just select it by pressing it. But let's say you are very savvy with your fingers, that you're used to doing like this, 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 and then you are in messaging. Well, you can reuse your knowledge here instead of having to rely only on touch, which I think is a nice touch. Consistency is always very nice. It means that you can use your knowledge more than one place. Now, the home screen at the HTC phone has applications over here, and it has personalization over here, both with icons that makes a lot of sense. Over here at the Nokia phone you'll have options for editing the home screen, changing the wallpaper and stuff that are related to the home screen itself, and a menu that takes you to all your applications. Now, in my mind, none of these are superior. It's not necessarily better that you can go to applications from here and personalization from here instead of going to options here and menu here. It's the same thing that they do. The HTC is slightly better, I would say, simply because the fields are larger here. I've actually been trying to hit menu quite many times over here where I succeeded in hitting mailbox instead, which will then take me to this wizard. Whereas I don't have problems over here with hitting applications or hitting personalization. So in the core functionality on the home screens, there's no big difference. You can scroll between a number of screens and you'll have different icons or applications or functionalities displayed. You can wrap around, or whatever you call it over here, where you go back to the first screen, whereas you'll have to go backwards over here. Over here you'll have different backgrounds, you won't have that over here. Also at the Nokia phone, as you can see if you scroll, there will always be the clock, the date and the profile here. Whereas at the HTC phone, the user has, let's say, more freedom to do whatever he wishes to do. So that's a plus for the Nokia phone and a minus for the HTC phone. But when it comes to the editing of icons or functionalities on the phone, the HTC is superior. Let me show you a few examples. Now, let's say on the HTC phone, if I wish to move the camera, I long press it. The screen does like this. It tells me in the top, drag to rearrange, change settings or remove, and it shows me where I can move it to, because it has this green field or this green border or frame around the different, let's say, fields on the screen. Then over here, if I wish to move something, let's say if I wish to move this YouTube, I long press, then I can see that now this is in kind of editing mode. And that's nice feedback. I learned that I can do something now and I can see with these big plus signs that I can add something down here. But if I wish to move the YouTube thingy, I cannot move it. I can only move the bar. Also, if I move it here in order to have it in between these two, then it's in the bottom because it kind of overrides the one that it's on top of. So it means that I cannot take one icon and move it where I want to. And of course I have more, let's say, freedom over here to move one item or two items if I wish to, instead of having to move this complete section. Also, if I have a blank space, let's say here, then I can have a bunch of widgets. And I can add CNN if I wish to. I can also long press it and then remove it. Over here it's the same thing. I long press a field, I get to add a widget or an app or something. Let's say I take an app and I'll take a calendar. And now it's up there. So there's no big difference in how I add an item or an app to each screen. But then there are some things that doesn't make sense at the Nokia phone. Let's say here I have a blank field. Now here I have general. I can do nothing with general if I want to move it, because it has to be consistent with the other screens. I just commented that's nice with this consistency, but on the other hand, it's a bit strange that I don't get any feedback telling me that I cannot move this. Also the blank field down here, I can do nothing with it. It doesn't respond to anything I do, whereas this one turns black so I can see that something is happening. So I'm not quite sure why I cannot add an icon down here of a kind. And I think it's, if not annoying, then at least not as clever as in the HTC phone, where I can go anywhere on the home screen and do almost anything that I want. I can add an icon here. There you are, and I can move it wherever I want to. Also, if I wish to move something to a different screen, let's say I go here, I remove the calendar, I simply put it to the mailbox down here, and then I want the internet icon to appear on my home screen. Then I simply take it, I drag it to the corner of the screen, and then I go to the other screen and let go of it there. Now with the Nokia phone, there's no options for doing anything like this. If I wish to move this bar, complete bar, to another screen, I can drag it like this, but nothing happens. There's no options for me to move this anywhere apart from on the screen itself, which is kind of limiting compared to the functionality that I get at the HTC phone. Also, I have the complete freedom over here to combine any icons I wish to, simply by dragging and dropping them, whereas here, if I wish to rearrange this one, or if I wish to change some of these icons, I'll have to press it, and then I'll have to go into settings, which is kind of in the bottom of the phone, you know, just next to the processor. That's where settings are located. Suddenly I cannot see the icons anymore, I cannot see their location on the screen. I need to read what's here to figure out, oh, that's the YouTube icon, that's the file manager. And it doesn't seem as though it's very difficult to understand that YouTube is a YouTube icon and the file manager is a file manager icon. But it's obviously a lot easier if I'm on the HTC phone, and then I can simply take the icons themselves and move them around. And then in here I'll have the options for adding a bookmark, blah 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 blah. So there's good and bad things with both these phones. There's clever things at the Nokia phone with the options for moving and using your cursor. There's clever things at the HTC phone with the large fields down here that you can easily hit. There are clever things that the Nokia phone with the home screens that changes background and that turns around, wraps around, whereas you'll have to go backwards over here. There's no difference between whether you edit from personalization or from options, as you do here, or personalization here. The big difference is that the HTC phone gives me very easy access to editing and removing all my icons, all my applications on my screens, whereas the Nokia phone is a little bit more cumbersome. the steps that you take at the Nokia phone are all something that you can understand. You know, fair enough, I'll try to edit my home screen. This plus means that I can add something, fair enough. Then I add something in here, fair enough. Or if I wish to edit these ones up here, I long press them, and then I press them again, and then, well, fair enough, then I can see that I cannot change them, so therefore I go into settings, and then I can do it in here. It's not that it's difficult, it's just more cumbersome and less cleverly made at the Nokia phone than it is on the HTC phone. Because over here I simply drag and drop everything, whereas over here I'm kind of forced to have 4 icons here, one big here, one big here, nothing here, always the profiles, always the clock, which is kind of clever, but also limits what I can do. If you go out and usability test both these phones, and if you don't compare them, the users will say, well, this is easy to use, and this is just as easy to use as well, because you understand every step, only this is more clever. The HTC phone is easier to use overall because you have more freedom and more control over the interface.